What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. And if it's your first time here, just plain welcome. A while back, I came across a story that looked to be pretty clear cut. It was a case of a Navy sailor who got convicted of having machine guns and rocket launchers and all kinds of horrible things. And I just framed it as, hey, see, gun control ain't working here. There's just a problem. It was all bullshit, right? I didn't realize this, but someone else found out, and he's joining me today. This is Lee Williams from The Gun Writer. He has done yeoman's work uncovering what's been going on with a gentleman by the name of Patrick Tate Adamiak. Lee, thanks for joining me, brother.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us a little background. What happened to Tate?
Well, he was very careful. He was headed toward a career in naval special operations. He was going to go in as an officer, if you can believe that. He was an E6 when I spoke to him.
Okay.
Um, on the other hand, he had a very successful pro gun website where he sold parts. He
Okay.
collected guns, but the only stuff moving out through his website were parts, legal parts, which he had purchased.
Mm-hmm.
One day, 2022, he comes home. There are 8 law enforcement jurisdictions there, including the ATF. They hit his house hard. He's like, "Hey, I've got nothing illegal." They went through his safe. They're going to blow it or destroy it. He said, "No, I'll open them all for you." They found nothing illegal. Nothing illegal, because why would he? He's heading for a career in special operations. Why the hell would he have anything illegal there?
Yeah, he
This was,
should get to play with everything he wants there.
yeah, exactly. He had nothing fully automatic. He had some weird pistols that fired from an open bolt, Mac 10 style guns, which are perfectly legal to
Yep.
own if you have $7,000 to be able to afford one.
I remember seeing him at gun shows back in the day.
Yeah. Um, so ATF, there's eight law enforcement agencies there. They took them, and then they brought in some of their quote unquote experts, and they hit him hard. They he had 2 RPGs that he bought at a flea market or something in
Mhm.
California. They say DWAT on them. I don't think they were ever real RPGs. I think they were training aids. They
Okay.
said, "Oh well, those are live. Those can fire around. There's a hole in the pipe where your
Yeah.
face goes. If you put a rocket in that, well, they took a 22 converter and they got it to fire, or a 5.56, I'm sorry, 7.62 by 39. They got it to fire an AK round. He had a toy Sten submachine gun manufactured right now by Denix. Cost you about $200. You can buy them. They ship them right to your house.
Yep.
They pulled the barrel on that. They got that to fire a live round. They said it was a machine gun, even though when this asshole fixed it all up, it couldn't take a live round from a bolt from the magazine.
Right.
He had to feed it one round at a time. Oh, it's a machine gun. All of his open bolt, semi-auto, 100% legal handguns were machine guns, and they just went down the line. He was selling parts, so he had some PPSH 41 parts, like the barrel housing
Oh
that
yeah.
has the holes in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a machine gun. Worst, he had like 977 flat pieces of metal which were cut up, and it's a flat piece of metal that's been cut, and
Mm-hmm.
it's designed to make a Mac 10 or Mac 11. Technically, they're flat pieces of metal. No, ATF wanted to charge him with possessing 977 machine guns. He had a great, fantastic defense guy who was a former ATF senior official. The only thing they allowed him to testify about were those Mac 10 flats. So he got the judge to buy in, hey, these aren't machine guns, they're flat pieces of metal. Okay, well, that cost the government 10 years because they wanted to send him to prison for 30 years. He only got a 20-year sentence. He's on about year 4.
Only.
Yeah,
Only 20
yeah,
years.
and literally, I mean, I've written 17 stories on this kid so far. I've been through all of the evidence. Tom, there's nothing there that's even close to being illegal. This kid, one of the ATF firearms officers, made it all up. I
Yeah,
mean, it
I from the moment I started catching wind of it, I started covering it bearing arms because holy crap, this was egregious. Because I
yeah.
mean, he got 10 years alone, if I remember right, for just the RPG.
And you can buy them online
I can
and
get
have
him on
them
Etsy.
ship right to your home.
I found them on Etsy.
Yeah.
They're on Etsy. They're on eBay. You know, who will not allow you to sell. Like, I don't remember if they're on eBay, but like these are places that this isn't Gunbroker.
No.
You know,
No.
these are sites that no firearms. They're not guns. And
No.
God forbid you fire one. I don't know if you've ever seen the high speed ballistics, they had one of them had one explode on them. This is one that had been made to work and it exploded. I wouldn't even try to put a rocket in one with a hole right here.
Yeah. Literally take your head off.
Yeah, it almost took his off, and it was actually one that had been legally modified to fire. And this was you. You had pictures at your Substack of the holes. This wasn't just. We don't have to take your word for it. You had the evidence there.
Yeah, and they were taken by the ATF. That's what I don't get. Now, when you go into a civil court of law, you've got the judge, you've got prosecutors.
Mhm.
They're not going to know much about firearms as we do.
Right.
But somebody in the chain of command at ATF should have known that, hey, we don't got any charges on this guy. But
It-
rather than cutting him loose and letting him go be a SEAL, they decided he needed 20 years. And it's weird. He's in a medium security prison in New Jersey. Everybody there knows that he's the one innocent man.
yeah, I worked in a jail for a while, and it's like funny how everybody said they were innocent, and no one believed them.
Yeah.
Tate Adamiak is, by all evidence I've seen, an innocent man.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
I said, you talk about the Mac 10s. I remember seeing them. I've known people who had semi-auto only Mac 10s, and yet the ATF said, by definition, it's a machine gun. That's not the way I remember the law.
No. And
I've read
these
the National Firearms Act.
a lot of the Mac 10s that are out there illegal fire from a closed bolt. His fired from an open bolt. That's what threw this kid. But you know what I think threw this kid more than anything? The truth. He's told by somebody, some official in ATF. I mean, one of the photos you'll see in there, Pat, has a machine gun. ATF posed with the machine gun in one of their books of evidence of the light machine gun. It's a toy. It shoots plastic pellets. Yet they referred to it as a machine gun.
Yeah. Well, and going back to the Sten,
Yeah,
they had to modify the barrel. They wrapped it in with electrical tape
yeah.
and crammed it in there where it couldn't take a magazine. They got one of their bolts to put in there because there wasn't one. He didn't have one.
No, it's a toy. But
Right.
what's interesting to me is that Sten kit that they used
Mm-hmm.
will fire a live round on its own without even being in a toy Sten or a real Sten. So it really doesn't matter.
So, in other words, they basically put a firearm inside the toy, and when it went off, they said the toy's the firearm.
Right.
Well, yeah, if I put my Glock inside a toy AR-15 and pull the trigger on the Glock, the toy AR-15 is going to look like it fired.
Yeah,
It ain't.
exactly.
It ain't the AR-15.
Exactly.
And the barrel shroud on a PP. It's one of the most distinctive submachine guns on the planet, and it's because of that barrel shroud that's just cool as hell.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
I mean, they broke the law nine kind of ways. He's got an appeal coming up. But if the appeal doesn't hit, Tom, I mean, my boss, Alan Gottlieb, was on a radio show on Sunday, and he says, Tate needs to be freed, but he also needs some money.
yeah,
He needs some government money
oh
because
yeah,
he did nothing wrong.
no, this is. I wrote about it today, and compared it a little bit to Dexter Taylor in New York. But Dexter actually did something that was against the law. It's just the law was stupid.
Right.
The
Right.
law is, I feel like the law is unconstitutional. That's different though. Tate didn't do anything.
No,
He,
and he was one of these kind of guys. One, he hopefully will make an incredible SEAL officer. I've met SEAL officers. He far and away squared away enough to make it through buds, without a doubt. Because all he's doing now is working out.
oh,
You know,
that's going to help.
years.
That's going to help.
Yeah, but I don't even know if the Navy would take him.
You know, here's my thing. It says a lot about him as a person that after he basically got screwed over by his nation, he's still willing to go through all that in service of that nation.
Yeah, I mean that's what gets me. I've talked to a lot of guys who've done a lot of bad things when I was a policeman and now as an investigative reporter for the last 25 years. But you knew right away when you're talking to Tate, he didn't do anything wrong, and his documents showed all that. They proved his innocence.
So why didn't they let the expert testify on the rest?
They knew, and I got to tell you, this guy, he's amazing. I just wrote a story about him.
Yeah, great story too.
Fantastic. I mean, a senior member of the ATF, who, by the way, was considered when Trump took over as the guy that he might want to run the ATF.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
pretty
not
good
a bad
resume.
dude. Well, they knew that he would kill him on everything, so they managed to fight, and they gave Tate's attorneys what they wanted. So he never got up there during the trial where the jury could see him. He just was. He argued about the flats, which is great because he saved Tate 10 years.
Yeah,
But
but
here you've got a senior leader within the ATF, hell of a guy, and he's saying that the ATF screwed up.
yeah,
That Tate
royally.
should be innocent. I mean, do the math on that.
Right. I mean, because I wrote about that piece that you published this morning. Because honestly, you write something about Tate, I'm probably going to write something just to
Good.
just to spread the news there because
Feel free.
he doesn't he doesn't belong in prison.
No, no. He was serving his country as a Navy E6
Yeah.
who was going to go as an O1 to SEAL school. Okay,
Right.
that's a big we owe him.
And if I remember right, he was a master at arms, which is
Right.
Navy top.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm a Navy vet. I worked with some master at arms at times, especially because my dad was a law enforcement officer. I, grew up around this kind of thing. They're master at arms isn't something you enlist to become. You have to, or at least when I was in, you had to achieve a certain rank before you could go to master at arms school, which means you had to be squared away before you ever got there.
Yeah, and he is.
And he got there, and then he's going into the officers as be a SEAL officer.
And the kind of constraints that are put on those schools.
Oh yeah,
It's not like they got 1,000 slots a year. No,
oh,
you've got X number go to your Naval Academy. You've got X number going for this, X number going for that. For active duty E6s, I bet there's not a lot.
there were a handful of programs when I was in. For me as a corpsman, there were some others available because of the medical side. Because I could have gone, theoretically, if I had decided to go officer, I could have applied either as a line officer or a nurse corps officer or a medical corps officer, something like that. They're not easy to get. They're very, very competitive. For somebody who's a master at arms, they don't get the medical side necessarily. I mean, I guess they could apply for it if they wanted to, but there's a lot of competition for it, and screw ups need not apply.
Yeah.
Problem children need not apply.
Well, I think a lot of that shows why the Navy never bought into this.
Mm-hmm.
They never sent him, kicked him out, or made him an E1 and sent him to some naval prison. They were paying him while he was in prison. His enlistment ended while he was in prison. He
a
was
place they
getting
can re-up.
checks as an E6.
Well, it makes me feel better about the Navy on that one.
Yeah, the Navy had nothing to do with this.
Yeah. The fact that they stood by him, I mean, obviously they weren't going to let him re-up in prison.
Right, right.
I mean, I get that. But the fact that they didn't boot him, that's important. That's telling.
They knew him. I
Yeah.
mean, going into SEAL school as a brand new 01.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah,
I mean, that being a butter bar is rough, period. And, even if you're a Mustang, it's still a whole different thing. And then having to deal with buds for that, I, I wouldn't, I wouldn't do it. Because buds is rough enough. So you said he's got an appeal coming up.
yeah.
What time frame are we looking at on that one?
September.
September. Okay. So a few months. People want.
Here's my point.
Yeah.
He shouldn't even have to go through that.
No, he shouldn't. He should be out. He never should have gotten there in the first place. And I think I'm with you. He deserves some government money.
Yeah.
You said he's been in locked up for 4 years.
Going on 4. Going to be 4 years soon.
He deserves a nice chunk of change for every year.
Yeah. I mean, he's still young enough the Navy could take him if they wanted to, but if not, he needs a nice bank account.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. The fastest way to get him out would be a pardon.
Right.
And, this was something that happened under the Biden administration. The ATF answered to Joe Biden at the time. While I'm not going to say Joe Biden directed this because no evidence, the truth of the matter is Trump could, look like a hero to a lot of people if he issued that pardon.
Well, he's given pardons to people that have committed crimes.
Absolutely.
Tate has done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I know, according to Alan Gottlieb, my boss, that the Trump's team has looked at it or is looking at it or is somewhere with it. But, I mean, this kid needs to be cut out now.
Yeah, but how much more looking do you need? Just look at the evidence. Just look at the evidence and get somebody who knows guns to look at it with you, and it won't take long.
No.
Because I look at it. I am far from an expert. I'm a gun person, but I know where I am on the Dunning-Kruger line. I am far from an expert, and I can look at all of that and go, this is bullshit.
Well, I mean, 977 flat pieces of metal. Yeah. You want to turn them into owning 977 machine guns? Where's the paperwork on that? Where's the transfers on every flat piece of metal?
My first AK was a flat piece of metal that was a less than 80% receiver. It wasn't a gun until I made it one.
Right.
Which is exactly what these plates are. So, well, let's hope we can get some justice for Tate because the kid deserves it.
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, he wasn't a cook. He wasn't a record player. He wasn't a yeoman or whatever. Mm-hmm. He was keeping the Navy safe, and he was going ahead and have a good career, keeping the country safe.
So, where can people find you in general and keep up on what's going on with Tate?
Everything I write is in 3 places. It's at thegunwriter.substack.com.
I'll have a link to that.
It's at armedamericannews.org. And it's all at SAF, as in Second Amendment Foundation.org, my employer.
Awesome. And we're going to, folks, do what you can to keep the pressure up. Start tagging POTUS on Twitter. Do whatever you got to do. They listen.
Yeah, they do.
They're listening to the public.
Biden didn't.
Right. But the Trump administration is actually paying attention to social media. So hit them up on whatever social media you're using, on all of it. Right. And let's see if we can get this made right somehow.
Thanks, Tom.
Happy to. All righty, folks. That's going to wrap it up today. I want to know what you think about the whole situation. Go down to the comments. Tell me what you're thinking. While you're down there, hit like, subscribe, notification bell, all that jazz. And on that note, I am going to wrap it up, and I will catch you all next time.